Hey guys, in this spoiler video, we'll talk about what we like and don't like about the Holdovers. Now, one thing I like about it is how awful the story is. It's set in an all-boys boarding school on Christmas break, but some parents aren't picking up their kids for some reason. Like Dominic Sessa's character, whose mom got married months ago but picked the Christmas break for her honeymoon. She basically put her son in a 24/7 2-week detention with the most hated teacher.
Now, Paul Giamatti, he's there all the time anyway. He doesn't go anywhere. He lives on campus and doesn't really have a life, so it's not really a sacrifice for him. That's the way they make it sound.
He doesn't have family, he doesn't have friends to spend Christmas with, so the best thing for him is torture some students.
Yeah, it's made clear early on, that he's the teacher that no one likes because he's a stickler for the rules. The principal of the school. It's made clear that he was once a student of Paul's, and now he's his boss, and he's berating him because he didn't pass this certain student. He's a teacher with principle, and he's like, I'm not just going to pass a kid because his dad is the senator or he gives us money. He's an idiot. He didn't do his work, and so I'm not going to give him an A. And so you see early on that he doesn't compromise his beliefs. He's very strict.
No, what happened was other students called their parents and asked permission to go skiing with one student who had a helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
But Angus's parents were unreachable, so Angus couldn't go on the skiing trip, and now he's stuck one-on-one with his teacher. So out of frustration, Angus jumped on a trampoline and broke his arm. So this puts Paul in trouble as the babysitter and could get fired. But Angus kept it secret, making him actually the first one to show kindness in this odd relationship.
Yeah, and he had to lie because, they were wanting his insurance information and he refused to give it. And breaking the cardinal rule, which is that, a Barton man never lies. That's what Paul says. Barton man never lies. But then you don't want to forget the third character, which is Mary Lamb. She's in charge of the kitchen and the food, and she's also staying. She could have gone to see her sister. I think it was in Boston, but she just was still not ready to hang around people. She's still grieving the death of her son who went to Vietnam and was killed. It appears from the very beginning, this is very recent, like that summer, like that, it's only been a few months since he died.
One of my favorite scenes was when Angus asked Paul why Paul smells like fish.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul said it's because of a physical condition. That's why he's afraid women would like him.
Mm-hmm.
But he really likes this lady from work who invited them for a Christmas party. So he sprayed Lysol over his body and went.
Yeah.
And
that was his cologne.
And one of the saddest scenes was when Paul thought this lady was into him because she's talking to him all night until her boyfriend came in late for the party and they kissed.
Like I said, there's two scenes that were predictable, and that was one of them.
Yeah, it was.
It was obvious because Paul Giamatti's character, he was getting more and more animated. He was getting more and more loose with her, and you could see that he was smiling and he was enjoying the conversation. They were talking. She was the only person that really expressed interest, in him.
Yeah.
And spoke to him in such a nice, kind way. And he turned and saw her kiss, and you could just see him being deflated in that moment. A little predictable, but forgivable because it's, it was well done, and it's the kind of thing that you would expect to happen.
It wasn't easy for Paul to come out of his shell and make an attempt for romance just to be friend zoned.
And it's kind of the kid's fault too, because I think when they were at the restaurant, that's where they ran into her. They went to a bar or a restaurant and she was the waitress. But it was in that moment when she was talking to him that the kid was like, I think she likes you. I think she's into you. So that's what put it into his head,
Then the most annoying scene was when this beautiful girl had just kissed Angus, but Paul wants to leave the party. I didn't get the girl, so you can't get the girl. What a cock blocker.
Right. Yeah. At the party was also where you got to see Mary's vulnerable side as well, because she's been doing a real good job of keeping her emotions in check, but she started to drink. She had a few drinks, and then she was playing music. I think it was the music that was making her think of her son. And one of the characters was like, you're killing me with this, whatever it was jazz. And she just got really angry and went into the kitchen, and she finally just let loose. Like the tears just started to come and she was letting it all out.
I was expecting her to have a monologue or something, but I was glad it didn't happen.
No, they kept it simple. Funny because me and my wife were just having this conversation today because the movie Hoosiers was on and we were watching it. And I said, you know why Hoosiers is the best sports movie? Because it doesn't have any of that. All the cheese is taken out. It's all simple. It's just, here's the way it happened. Scenes happen real quick. There's almost no dialogue. And it's like, that's what makes movies like this good. It's like they don't overdo it. They let the emotions speak for themselves in moments like that.
It's so simple, but it takes a master to make simple amazing. And Alexander Payne is one of those.
Yep.
And I love how well executed the third act was.
You know, the kid wanted to go to Boston. So the three of them, Mary, Angus, and Paul, all went to Boston. She was able to go visit her sister, which she had mentioned before. So it was good for her.
So they were in Boston and they met the guy, Paul's classmate in Harvard. Hey, Paul, how you been? Yeah, I teach abroad now in a university somewhere. And he didn't tell him that he was teaching high school.
Yep.
Because he'd be embarrassed. But then it turned out that Paul plagiarized somebody's work in Harvard and he was kicked out.
And then Angus helped him with the lie, and they both were just going back and forth with a bunch of lies. And so all the rules about Barton men never lie are just out the window at that point. And that was one of the secrets. Like, you find out all these secrets. For Angus is that, you know, his father went nuts and was put into an insane asylum. And the secrets for Paul's character was what you just said, except it turns out he didn't plagiarize. Someone else plagiarized him, right? Wasn't that what happened? The other guy stole from him, but he had money.
Right.
His family was rich, and so he wasn't the rich kid, so he got blamed and had to be expelled. His story was kind of a disgrace, but he was like, why does that guy need to know my story? You know, it's none of his business. But when they were in Boston, they went to see a movie, and Angus sneaks out, and he doesn't come back, and Paul realizes he's been gone a long time, and that's when he catches him, like he's getting into a cab, and he's like, I just want to go see my father. So Paul says, why didn't you just say that? I have no problem with you visiting a cemetery, because he thinks he's dead. And then the next thing you see is they're pulling into this, you know, sanitarium, this nut house. And that came to the next scene that was a predictable scene, but it was a necessary scene. It was a good scene. He's telling his father all these things. It's kind of like the exact same thing as Paul Giamatti's character, as he's pouring his heart out to this woman. And then the next thing happens is she goes and kisses another man. It's the same thing. Angus is pouring his heart out to his dad. He's telling him all about school. He's telling him about all these things. And then his dad reaches over and takes his hands and he says, I think they're, you know, trying to poison me in my food or something like that.
I think they put something in my food.
Yeah. And you see the look come over Angus's face, and he realizes that everything he's saying is just going out into the ether. His dad's not even really, he's not there enough to really accept what he's saying. So it's kind of a heartbreaking moment. Yeah. It was predictable. Like, I was like, I know what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. But at the same time, it was necessary. It was very necessary, and it was still emotional.
Oh, it was so emotional.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, we kind of see it coming because we know we're watching an Alexander Payne movie and he doesn't want his characters to be happy.
Well, it's also movie logic. You know, when you watch too many movies like we do, you kind of see beats like that coming. But that's it. The rest of the movie, I didn't see it coming. But in the ending, like you said, where Paul Giamatti, he gets in trouble because he took Angus to see his father. He wasn't supposed to do that. And what they didn't show you in the scene, but it's revealed in that scene, is that the snow globe that he saw at the Christmas party, Angus apparently stole it and then gave that to his father. And so the moment was so pure and so great when Paul, with tears in his eyes, he just laid it out. He was alone for Christmas, and I thought he should see his father. All of this is pretty much a lie, but I don't give a shit. And they were just stunned that he didn't back down. And even the principal in that moment was just staring at him like, do you know what you're doing? You're throwing away, you know, everything. You see, for the first time, he's willing to break the rules and bend the rules for the betterment of someone else. It's a moment of redemption in a lot of ways for him, for his character. An act of nobility that you didn't even expect from him.
What angered me was how Angus's mother could be so heartless. First, she's sending her son to military school. Second, she wasn't happy at all knowing her ex-husband's memories came back. Instead, she's worried about finding somewhere else to put him. She's a selfish person who abandons people when they're no longer convenient.
Yeah.
And I think that's the theme of the movie. These are, they're abandoned people.
And Angus came up to him at the end and was like, I don't know what you said to them, but I get to stay here. And you see, he basically sacrificed his career for that one student.
Every emotion that you as the audience held back the entire movie gets released in this moment when Paul Giamatti says goodbye and he cries for the first time, and then you cry as well. You can't help it. Overall, it was an amazing experience. It's definitely a unique Christmas movie. Alexander Payne is the master of comedy drama. I don't think anyone else comes close to this kind of quality and comedy drama.
It's like high comedy and drama. I think of Wes Anderson and, P.T. a little bit, and Martin McDonagh and people like that have just well-written characters and funny situations. But Payne has kind of got his own little style as well. And he hasn't made a bad movie. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Election just because it's one of those movies that's hard to rewatch, but it is good. But this is one of his best for sure.
Yeah. Alexander Payne is more realistic, like average people, normal people. So we highly recommend The Holdovers. If you guys have seen the movie, please comment below what you think about it. Tell us how we're wrong. Positive and negative comments, welcome here. Thanks for watching.